elect the 2 sites? When was that decision final? Okay. And when did you narrow that to the 1 site? Just the dates, please.
Okay, the dates, we identified the date or the locations, the coalition, it wasn't me, because I'm new here. The coalition came up with the 8 different locations in
No, when did it come down to the 2?
It came down to the 2 in February
This
year, and it came down to the 1 on the 7th of March.
That's great.
And when you had the 2, did anyone from the coalition approach and discuss this as to what plans might fit it in Heber?
Oh, yes, yes, and in fact, I met with Mark and said, Mark, where in Heber would you recommend? And he gave us, he was very helpful, and the coalition members went out and talked with the homeowners, or not the homeowners, but the property owners, that location that's north of the new Smith's expansion program and the bypass, and said, okay, what are the opportunities for having the amenities that we're talking about adjacent to the Arts Center in a reasonable time? We're talking about the boutique and the restaurants, and the person or the individuals that own those properties said, not in our lifetime are we going to do anything except have horses there. So it kind of meant like, all right, so city, are you interested in doing this or aren't you? And if they're not, then let's bag the thing and just let the future happen as it will. And I think that's unfortunate if that's what we do. Does that answer your question?
It does from your part. If I could ask the city, Midway, I thought I heard you say you were planning this village like about 1.5 years ago?
Yeah, starting with our general plan revision, we formed different committees we have 9 different chapters in our general plan.
So
and
you
one of them,
started designing this village
yeah,
1.5 years ago, and you were picked in March.
yeah, we started having the idea formulate about over 1 year ago. We had a couple proposals for developments on this particular property. So that's really where it began, is looking at potential development on the property, and then as we went through our general plan, developing kind of our vision into what we'd like to see happen over.
So the city was moving along.
The Arts Center came much later than that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you do the other stuff anyway if this didn't happen to be there.
Well, yeah, most of the property's commercial and it will develop into something, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right, thank you. Next is Heber Light and Power. Harold, Jason, Edward wants to take this.
For those of you who don't know, I'm Harold Wilson. I'm with Heber Light and Power. I've been to many of your council meetings over the past 2 or 3 years discussing our energy needs and also our constraints as a utility within the valley. Gentlemen previous to me talked about capacity, limiting growth, and so forth, and that's kind of the state we're in as we look forward down the road is capacity issues and things like that. We talked to Mayor Bonner, I've talked to Mr. Davis with the county. He directed me to come to this meeting and discuss some of our future plans with this group. And I want to commend this group. As I sit here and as I watched everyone come in, I thought, you know, this is a place that the people need to be and share their thoughts, because a lot of the people in this room are the decision makers. And as I watched the people come in, I appreciated that, and I appreciated everyone that's here and taking their time to serve. But just in a nutshell, what we are looking forward and doing is, as a utility, we have capacity constraints. We receive a single source of service at the Midway Cemetery from Rocky Mountain Power to serve all of our customers throughout the valley. And as our load projections continue to grow and the valley continues to prosper, the load goes. Ryan presented a proposal about numbers and how the economy is growing and the things happening in this valley. Well, everything that he talked about, you know, is driven by electricity. Believe it or not, it's all got to have us serving them. As our load projections indicate, in about the year 2022, we will have reached our capacity for service at the Midway switch rack. So we've worked on a proposal, and we've been working on a program and a project for the past 3 or 4 years to upgrade our transmission system in the valley, as well as to gain a second point of interconnect with Rocky Mountain Power. We began a portion of this project about 3 years ago out on Highway 40, and we constructed 1 mile of this project to increase capacity on our transmission system. Beginning in the coming months, we actually have plans to continue another mile coming closer into Heber City. It's just part of our program of work, and it's a part of our project to increase our capacity as well as increase our reliability. So the next phase of that project brings our transmission system and upgrades our transmission system from basically the north end of Heber City to the Midway switch rack over by Midway Cemetery. And in doing so, we hope, and our plan is to follow energy corridors as well as present and future transportation corridors. We want to limit the effect and limit the exposure of property owners and residents and those of everyone in the valley. We want to place it where it's appropriate, and in the past our government officials have encouraged us to do just that in staying within energy corridors and transportation corridors. So that is our plan at this time. We have a great partner in this project in Rocky Mountain Power that are going to work with us in building this line to increase their reliability for their system. So I see, Walsburg Mayor here, this project even affects them because it provides a redundant feed for Rocky Mountain Power System on this backside of the Wasatch Front. So that is our plan. We have a contract in place. We've made a deal with them to partner on this moving forward. And we look for your input as civic leaders and hope that we can continue a great partnership with each and every one of you in providing a quality product, and we look for your feedback.
Questions?
What's the timeline, Harold?
We want to have completion by fall of 2019.
You mentioned in City Council, Midway City Council a couple of years ago, that 970 South.
Yes, sir.
When's that line going to be done?
It will be built in 2019.
Okay. So I think originally it was supposed to be this year. Right?
It was,
Okay.
and multiple things have set it back, and our goal and our realistic date is 2019. The planning process and all the things leading up to construction will take a lot longer than construction will take. So the bulk of construction will take place in 2019.
Harold, is this part of the same construction that will bring the Rocky Mountain Power line down through Jordanelle and the new substation by the event center?
Our second point of interconnect will end up being at the property that Heber Light and Power owns east of the Wasatch County Event Center. It's a strategic hub for us as a company because of our generation facilities there, as well as it's where we have property. And that's where our second point of interconnect will be.
So you didn't, happen to have visuals to show where we plan the lines to be or anything like that?
At this point, we are in the planning process, and we're going to try the very best we can to stay within existing easements of our, what we refer to as our South 46 line, which basically leaves the Wasatch County Event Center and goes down 650 South directly west and crosses the river and comes through the sewer plant or sewer lagoons over and through 970 South in Midway over to there. Coming in from the north, like I said, we're just going to try to stay within within our own easements or transportation corridors.
So the rumor I've heard about, you're following the bypass road around.
That is one great option.
The 650 south in Heber is the way you get out of Heber.
Correct. That's where our transmission line is located at this time.
How do you know what the northern bypass route will be when that really hasn't been fully designated?
And that's why we want to work with these entities, because you're right, it hasn't, nobody's went out there and cut a road yet.
Right.
So we are looking forward to working with this governing board, I guess it's not a governing board, but this group of civic leaders, as well as Heber City, Wasatch County, Midway, all the government entities.
Go ahead, finish your.
And choose the best route, very best route possible for everyone, and hoping to impact everyone the least.
To partially answer your question, Heidi, that was a prime discussion topic with our meeting with UDOT earlier this afternoon on helping to solidify where that bypass would come around, because they need it too.
And like I said, we just want to be good partners and a good service, provide a good service to our community. I remember as a kid standing here at 12 years old in this very building as a public speaker for the first time, and now I'm back quite a few years later. And it's definitely a lot different. Steve was probably the guy.
Did you get your merit badge?
I don't know. I hope, I think so. If I didn't, my mom probably did. So anyway.
Well, thank you for what you do. That's a great service, and thank you for your forward thinking.
And my door is always open, as well as Jason's, I know. And anytime anyone would like to visit with us with concerns or comments or any help, I can use all of that I can get. And I know Doug and Michael get sick of me coming to their office looking for help. But we definitely appreciate the support of the community.
Thank you. Appreciate Heber Light and Power. And we're really lucky to live in this small community and have our own power company. I think it's a real blessing for our community. Next on the agenda is Mark Nancy, who wants to talk about service during special events.
Right.
Okay, you're up.
All right. I'm currently the chair of the Tourism and Economic Development Board of Wasatch County, and Ryan Starks is that director, and I'm just going to translate here.
Maybe I'll try this and see if it'll work okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Over the past number of years, there's been a lot of discussion about special events in Wasatch County. And as our population continues to grow, the demand for special events likewise grows. And we recognize that it places a tremendous burden on a lot of our service providers, our sheriff's office, our EMS, and others. During the past 5 years, I think there's been also a little bit of confusion about, well, who really owns special events? Is it Heber Valley Tourism and Economic Development? Is it Wasatch County Planning? Is it Heber City Planning or Midway? Sometimes this confusion, I think, leads to a little bit of tension. And so the purpose of today's presentation is to give an overview to help hopefully establish who does what and how do we best move forward, okay? So I wasn't sure to include a hyphen or not. I thought maybe Lori could help me. Is it interlocal or inter-hyphen-local? Okay, well, I think I got that wrong. I think a lot of times we hear the different challenges of special events, and we recognize that they're there. But sometimes I think we're quick to say, well, we've got to do this or we've got to do that. So as Albert Einstein said, if I were given 1 hour to save the world, I would spend 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute solving it. So I just want to define what the perceived problems are. So as I speak with the councils and event organizers in the community, it seems like there's 4 main concerns. First, the lack of communication between business license offices and other service providing entities. Okay, so maybe somebody submits an event application, but that doesn't get communicated very well. Or if it does, it takes weeks and weeks. uncertainty regarding who handles event coordination, licensing, promotions, enforcement, etc. So I do got to say that roughly 4 years ago, we call it the HEBTED, the Heber Valley Tourism and Economic Development Board, said, well, maybe we need to hire an event coordinator. So at the time, that wasn't well defined what that really meant, and I think our county's evolved since that time. But because of the term event coordinator, I think there's a connotation suggesting that we now enforce events. But as you'll hear me say, we're not in the enforcement business. Okay, certain events are causing too much congestion throughout the Heber Valley, certainly a valid concern. And then 4, too many events are overburdening local police officers, emergency medical service providers, and others. So if we can go to the next slide. So if we take these 4 complaints and just kind of put them into 2 categories, I think we can chip away and find solutions. The first is just a communication issue. A lack of communication and an uncertainty in terms of who really owns special events. The second one is the overburdening of services, and we can classify this as the congestion issues and the overburdening of many of our police officers, EMS, etc. Okay. So last night in our board meeting, we're an interlocal board as well with Midway, Heber, Wasatch County, and then some private sector people as well. We discussed, well, what are some of the recommendations? So this is in support of our board. We feel like we need mostly to train and empower our business license representatives. So if somebody is concerned that the communication is lacking, I think the simple answer is to go sit down with that person and explain the desired outcomes. And we feel that we have outstanding business license representatives who are very capable. Maybe they just need a little bit of leadership. Create an event council that meets quarterly to review event applications and to coordinate services. Or, if we wanted to piggyback on the monthly leads meeting with the law enforcement, we could do that. But we feel like having some type of formal structure with a group that meets regularly. This group could be comprised of Wasatch County Business License Representative, Sandy, or Midway City, Georgia, and Heber City Police Department Representative, Heber City Business License Representative, Wasatch Sheriff's Office, EMS, HEBTED Marketing Representative, the Health Department, and State Park Representative or representatives. So in some fashion, they're kind of meeting in the leads meeting. They're meeting in the leads meeting, but I don't know that they're really following an agenda to look at every event. I think it's just coordinating police services. So we think that we need to kind of build up that committee and give them specific tasks. We can go to the next slide. Okay, an internal calendar. So our GoHeberValley.com has a community calendar. We try to promote all events that we hear about. But if this coordinating group could actually say, here are the ones that have been approved, they can be an internal document, not to the public, but to the committee. Something as simple as a Google Calendar or a Google Doc. Okay? Now, the other thing is, what happens if we have 3 or 4 or 5 events that want to happen on the same weekend? And that happens. Okay? Maybe that's where the congestion is starting to overwhelm our community. So could we create some type of management tool to help dictate who should and should not come on any given weekend? Maybe of the 3 or 4 that want to come on one weekend, we say we can accommodate 2. We would invite you, other 2, to consider a different weekend that's not as busy. So here's an example of just something I threw together. If we wanted to look at 3 different events to happen on Labor Day, this happens, right? A few years back, we had an arts festival that wanted to come. We could look at Swiss Days, Sheepdog, and then Arts Festival and determine which ones provide the greatest value. So the first criteria should be, is it in Wasatch County? And of course the answer is yes. Okay, now if we look at some of these criteria, local spending, on a scale out of 1 to 10, we're going to weight it. The overnight stays, that's, in terms of importance, that's a 9 out of 10. And name recognition, in terms of importance, is a 5 out of 10. So if we follow this over, this top part of this table, these are the positives, okay? So we'll have, let's say, Swiss Days provides an 8 out of 10 on local spending. And Sheepdog only provides a 6, and the Arts Festival a 3. As we go to the next line, overnight stays, 9. It's important to us, and we feel that Swiss Days and Sheepdog provide the greatest return in that area. Whereas the Arts Festival doesn't really. Finally, the name recognition. Okay, Swiss Days and Sheepdog are global events. People hear about them. Okay, Arts Festival, maybe not so much. So then we total it up, 24, 20, and 18. Yeah, I'm sorry, 20, 18, and 11. So you would think that Swiss Days and Sheepdog would be the top 2 winners, right? But there's also a negative effect of events, and we need to be mindful of that. So if we look at kind of the negatives and say the overall burden, you know, in a scale of 1 to 7, Swiss Days is a 5, Sheepdog's a 5, and the Arts Festival is only a 4. The cost to the entity, maybe there's added expenses, you know, if we have to hire additional police or, you know, cones or any type of services, trash removal. Okay, Swiss Days would be a 4, Sheepdog a 3, Arts Festival a 3. So then we tally these up, and we subtract 12 from the 24, which gives us a 12. We subtract the 9 from 20 to get 11, or the 8 from 18 to get a 10. And still, our top 2 events would be Swiss Days and Sheepdog. Now, I made those numbers up, and I think the committee could come up with some type of criteria to evaluate it. But right now, I think the challenge is, well, any event wants to come. It can be frustrating if 10 events want to come on any given weekend. So how do we determine who's the best fit? This is just one idea. Okay, if we go to the next slide, we recommend that we continue supporting these guys. They do a lot for the community. And consider contracting services. We know that we don't want to do that often, and that kind of seems to be the attitude of the county, and we recognize that. But moving forward, as we continue to grow, as events continue to come, I think we need to be open to that discussion. And then finally, is that me?
Yeah.
Who's making all that noise?
Quit flexing.
All right, sorry. Okay, business licensing, here's just kind of a recap. Permitting and enforcement is a function of the county and the cities, okay, and their license departments. They have very capable staff who are trained in this area. Heavy TED, Tourism and Economic Development. We are the business development and the marketing arm of Wasatch County. We're not the license and enforcement arm. So if an event comes and we're not happy with that, we typically don't permit that or enforce that. Heavy TED should communicate possible events to business license representatives and let them take that to the other stakeholders. So in the past, we've researched these events, we've gone and kind of shared the information with the stakeholders, but I think the special event people, the business license representatives, have felt concerned that maybe they didn't know about those events first. So we want to play nicely, we'll work with them and let them communicate. And then there's a lot of talk about hiring an event coordinator. And we've kind of tried this. We've asked Rachel from our staff to help coordinate the event. The challenge goes back to our fundamental mission though. Are we in the business of enforcing and permitting? In our office, as it currently stands, is not. And so my recommendation would be not to hire or create an event coordinator position, but instead to empower the business license representatives. They're very capable. We feel like with a little bit of training and coaching, if there's some communication that's lacking, they'll step up, they'll rise up to the occasion. And then finally, the committee should consider selecting a chairperson to serve for a 2-year period. So we talked about what that committee could look like. I think the challenge now is, well, the committee's meeting, but who's really leading out? Well, if there's a chairperson that can call the meetings on a quarterly basis, they can say, here are the events that are coming in, make assignments, you're going to do this, you're going to kind of work with the criteria, and then it can be a collaborative approach. So, what questions do you have? Next slide, Michael. Okay, now we can get to the questions. Kendall.
You know, the county worked on this effort several years ago to create the committee or similar. The only thing makes that work is if all the jurisdictions buy in.
Yeah.
and somebody comes and wants to do an event, you say, well, you got to wait until our next committee meeting, we got to evaluate that event. And we accommodate it at that time. As we tried this effort before, we did get buy-in from some of our jurisdictions. They didn't want to lose control. And it's going to have to take a buy-in. Maybe it's an interlocal agreement between all the jurisdictions to enforce that buy-in.
Could be an interlocal agreement. I think that's probably a wise move, where we put pen to paper and show our support for that. At the same time, we also kind of flirted with the idea of having somebody from our office lead out on that effort. But again, maybe the conflict was, well, who are you? You're not the enforcer. Why are you telling me which events to take care of? So if we empower those who are already doing their job, maybe there'll be a little more buy-in.
Do we have kind of a number probably from the sheriff's department or the police department on what the capacity is of people in the valley at one time that they can handle safely?
I think if Chief Booth were here or Sheriff Bonner, they might be able to address that. I know we might.
You know, you can look at events, and we know that on Labor Day, we have Swiss Days.
And sheepdog.
And Sheepdog. And they're two very large events that we have a whole year planned for. And in that respect, that impact is much less than the marathon that comes in and wants their thing approved in a week. When we haven't had any chance to look at vacation schedules for any of our people. And so it depends. It's not a straight answer, because, and that's one of the reasons, and we've talked about it, that, and unfortunately the people who run events don't run on this type of schedule, but if we have more time, it makes it easier for us to manipulate our resources to accommodate an event. That decreases dramatically the closer we get to the event date. And so that almost is one of the #1 issues we have, because if we already have sheepdog trials and this, or if we have a rodeo and mud race at Soldier Hollow, all our ambulances are taken. We don't have any more. It doesn't matter what the event is.
Right.
We don't have any more. And so those types of things come into play, which really complicates the whole process quite a bit. But in reality, we have got to push these people to plan further ahead to even accomplish any of this. If that were to happen, I really think we could work out a lot more of these issues that we seem to have in the valley and between us. We need more time.
So do we have a list of kind of like the major events? I mean, I know we always say sheepdog and Swiss Days, but we've also got the county fair. We've got cowboy poetry. We've got Ragnar.
24th of July.
To Rachel's credit, she has compiled an annual list, and that's not just waiting for people to contact her. She'll call them and say, hey, it looks like you've been here for the past 2 years. Are you planning on coming back? Yes, in fact, thanks for the reminder. I need to submit my application. So she's done that
because I think we might get to a point where we are maxed, and people just can't. I mean, this is all the county can handle for right now. This is all. I mean, people on the roads, police. You know, emergency services, and we might get to a capacity, so it might be worth evaluating the, you know, like you did on your little chart there, what value do these different events bring, and say, okay, we're at capacity at X number, and you've got a year ahead, you have to book a year ahead, you don't book a year ahead, you don't come to Wasatch County.